fellow Toastmasters, a quick show of hands here, if I may, and literally just physically raise a hand. Who here has been on a cruise? Who here wants to go on a cruise? Who here thinks the concept of going on a cruise is something they would rather have their toenails removed painfully? Good. I'm glad that we're not that audience, because I actually love cruising. I've been on multiple cruises. In fact, I'm heading off on a cruise in about 3 weeks, which will make it quite difficult for me to be an effective member of this club while I'm away, although I am working on getting a Zoom set up so that I can sit on the back of the ship and be a part of the meeting as we cruise. But the thing is, the cruise that I'm about to go on, I have to pay for. We're not paying much because I did get a really good deal, but we do have to pay for it. And it is in an internal cabin. And so it's not as good as we would normally like to cruise, but we're also paying less than we normally would. But sometimes I don't pay for the cruises at all. Well, that's not quite true. We do have to pay a small fee for an agency to place us on board a cruise, but effectively we are cruising for free. Who here would like to know how to go cruising for free? I'm seeing a few hands going up here. All right, let me explain what you need to do. Those of you who've been on a cruise, you would know that particularly on sea days, there is only so much shuffleboard that you can play. There is only so much bingo that you can get involved in. There is only so much art gallery stuff and free champagne that you can drink without going, I cannot do this anymore. Well, there are things called guest lecturers or enrichment lecturers who get up and speak for perhaps an hour on a whole variety of subjects on sea days. Those guest lecturers don't get paid to lecture on board a cruise ship, but by the same token, they don't pay either. I, for example, am currently negotiating a cruise to follow the one that we're about to go on. This will be on the Quantum of the Seas, one of those huge ships. And it's a 10-day cruise out of my home port of Brisbane around the South Pacific. And if it comes off, and it probably will, I will have to give 5 short lectures during that 10 days. But other than those 5 one-hour lectures, my wife and I will just be passengers. We will have a cabin, the same as any other passenger. We will eat in the restaurants, the same as any other passenger. We will go off on shore days, the same as any other passenger. I will have to work for 5 hours, but for the rest of the 10-day cruise, my wife and I travel effectively for free. There is an agency fee that I have to pay to get us on board. That will be roughly $400 US. So for the 2 of us, for 10 days, I'm talking roughly $400, or about $20 a day each. Now, if you can't eat $20 on a cruise ship, then you're not trying. So what sort of lectures do I have to give? In this particular case, it's cruising around the South Pacific, and the cruise line that I'm going to be with likes destination style lectures. So I will be talking about the ports that we're going to visit, a bit of history about the interaction between the Melanesians, the Micronesians, the Polynesians, and the Europeans, and how they have crossed paths, and when it's worked and when it hasn't. We'll talk about a history of the islands that we're going to, the ancient history, the history of the French who went through the area, the history of the Europeans and of World War II and the impact that that had on, for example, Noumea, which we'll be going to. I'll also give lectures on famous travelers that you think you know, but you actually don't. Christopher Columbus, for example, went to his deathbed genuinely believing that he had found a way through to the Indies, and nobody would believe him because they were trying to prevent the second coming of Christ. I'm serious. He was quite mad as a cut snake, but a fascinating dude regardless. So I give lectures on famous travelers, on the places that we're going to. I sometimes give lectures on how you can write a media release for your Toastmasters club or other group or small business. I have to get approval for the lectures that I'm going to give a general outline of what it is, but then the choice is up to me. I have to choose subjects that the audience would be interested in. And if I can do that, and I'm quite confident that I can, because any Toastmaster can do that. We do this regularly. We present subjects that we don't know a lot about, but we want people to know more about. Then I can get on board these cruises effectively for free. Now, in Australia, the agency that I use is called Event Speakers. And as I say, it costs me $700 US for a 10-day cruise or a little less for a 7-day cruise. Now, there are other agencies, and I will be putting the list of those in the chat in just a moment. So if you're interested, then you can go to these websites, see what it is that they are looking for a enrichment speaker, a guest speaker, a destination speaker. If you have an interest in military history, if you have an interest in astronomy, if you have an interest in barbershop quartets, if you have an interest in whatever you have an interest in, and you can make that entertaining for a crowd of people on board a cruise ship who would otherwise be bored and playing bingo or going to the casino, then you too can travel for free, or at least almost free. So as I say, I'll put that list into the chat. Feel free, if you want to apply to event speakers in Australia, if you think that you're going to be in our neck of the woods and would like to cruise, and use my name, because if they hire you, then I get a little kickback as well, which is a lovely thing. This happens with all of these. Oh, be quiet. I should have turned the phone off, shouldn't I? I know better than that. But that is how you travel for free, or at least almost for free, on a cruise ship. And I'm Toastmaster.